Let's look at how to use the dateDiff and dateAdd functions in query criteria, and we'll start with dateDiff. dateDiff calculates the number of time intervals, such as days or months, between two datetime values. The function requires an interval setting, followed by a start date and an ending date. Here's a list of the interval settings, and don't try to memorize them now. The course summary has a link to them. So as an example, here's a query that returns order data: when an order was placed, when it was due, and when it was shipped. Now let's say you need to know which orders were late and by how many days. Go to Design View, expand a blank field, enter a field name, a colon, dateDiff, and parentheses. I want to know how many days an order was late, so I enter D, the day interval, with the quotes and a comma after. For my starting and ending dates, I'll enter brackets with a comma between them, then the field names. That way I don't forget the brackets. Now let's stop and go back to the unfiltered data for a moment. You can see that not all of the orders are late. Some are early and some are on time. So if I run my query as it is now, I get a lot of negative values, and those numbers point to orders that shipped on time. Because I only want to see late orders, I enter a greater than sign and 0 in the criteria row, and sort the results in descending order. Run the query, and there you go. You use the dateAdd function when you need to add date values together. dateAdd works a lot like dateDiff, but it uses slightly different syntax. You start with an interval, but then you specify a number, and this is the number of intervals you want to add. So if I specify the year interval, then 3, I'm adding 3 years worth of values. You follow that with a date, and this is the date you'll add your values to. So in this example, I'm filtering for 3 years worth of data, starting with October 16th of 2015. To show you how this works, I'll use the criteria row instead of a calculated field, and I'll filter for records from the past 4 years. Start with the between operator, then the date function. That gives me a date automatically, so I don't have to enter one each time I run this query. It saves me some typing. Follow that with the AND operator, then dateAdd, parentheses, the year interval, -4, and then the date function again. The second date function is there because dateAdd has to add your values to something, and the date function provides that something, today's date. You can also use specific dates like this, but make sure you surround them with quotes. Run the query, and I get earlier dates, records from the past 4 years. Change the interval to a positive number, and I get later values. Now, that's just one example of how to use the dateAdd function, so see the course summary for links to more information.